On today's news, WWE potentially have an unexpected Forbidden Door crossover planned for the Men's Royal Rumble match. Big E has been openly critical of his WWE title reign, more details on the Women's Rumble match, Ollie's review of Raw, and more. Did you know? If I was still champion, I'd have passed 200 days on my reign at this point. Stupid Luke and his stupid briefcase. To make me feel better, you should subscribe and enable notifications so you know when the latest videos go live.
Support WrestleTalk!
There's a lot of buzz building up for the Royal Rumble event coming later this month, after the announcement of a whole bunch of surprise women's entrants on SmackDown last week, including current Knockout Women's Champion, Mickie James. This announcement in particular has got a lot of people talking, with the possibility of more Impact talent coming over, and WWE working with other companies now seemingly on the table. As Luke mentioned on yesterday's news, the report is that there are no borders in WWE now when it comes to booking one-off appearances for wrestlers, which is a complete 180 from their entire philosophy from the past forever, if true. With the talk of more people potentially popping over for the Royal Rumble, WrestleVotes has waded in on Twitter to say that had more than one source this weekend, without me directly asking, state they believe WWE will try for an unexpected Forbidden Door entrant for the Men's Royal Rumble. Personally, I'm skeptical it happens, but I can confirm WWE is at least open to the idea, which is exciting enough. The obvious first step would be a male talent from Impact Wrestling, as the two companies have already struck up the deal with Mickie James. But what about some other companies? WWE were already in talks with New Japan last year when renegotiating Daniel Bryan's WWE contract, so it's not necessarily out of the question of them trying to negotiate something else. There's all the free agents that were released from Ring of Honor late last year, and then there's AEW. While it seems highly unlikely WWE would try anything with the AEW on the surface because, you know, that whole war thing, is there a chance someone like Chris Jericho, a WWE mainstay for decades, could pop in for a one-off? Now the immediate burn of Jericho siding with AEW 3 years ago in 2019 isn't quite so fresh. WWE might be more open to having him back, but that's dependent on AEW being okay with it, and who knows what they think about this? Who do you think this Forbidden Door entrant in the Men's Rumble could be? Let us know in the comments, as I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere for the first 30 minutes after this video goes live. Whoever it is could come face to face with Big E in the match itself, as Big E announced himself for the Rumble on last night's episode of Raw. E recently spoke to Justin Purrazzo of Sports Illustrated, where he spoke on legitimate frustration with his WWE title reign that ended at day one, courtesy of Brock Lesnar. I wanted it to be a 5-course meal and it was more of an appetizer. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed to see it end that way. I'm not comfortable being just a guy on the roster. I'm not good with going back to the way it was before. Many have fantasy booked Big E winning this year's Rumble match and going on to reclaim his WWE title at WrestleMania, so we'll have to wait and see if this pans out or whether this will be another Kofi Kingston situation. As previously mentioned, the buzz surrounding the Rumble event picked up significantly following the announcements on SmackDown, and according to Fightful Select, Impact Wrestling were happy with the buzz, especially as they have the Knockouts title on the line in the main event of Hard to Kill 24 hours later. Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live noted that WWE didn't really want to use a lot of women from NXT this year in the Rumble match, which is why there's a bunch of surprise returns and crossover talent announced beforehand. Not to mention there's still a few slots up for grabs, with Bianca Belair and Liv Morgan now being freed up after their triple threat match on Raw, as well as Alexa Bliss presumably returning to in-ring action soon after her on-screen return on last night's episode. And as expected, the reported reason for so many surprise returns being announced ahead of time was to try and drive up ticket sales, according to Fightful Select. Even with all the announcements, it was noted that there is still plenty of room for more surprises, and likely will be. And now it's time for Ollie's review of last night's episode of Raw in about 5 minutes.
Thanks for your support on Patreon. He's a sexy man. Not an Andrew Gross man. And fantastic Mr. Good Old Fox. Raw opened with the scariest version of Brock Lesnar. Double denim Brock Lesnar. Denim, denim, denim. Denim, denim, denim. And also, nearly, the superior version of Bobby Lashley, as Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin tried to reunite the Hurt Business, which I thought were already reunited, and Bobbles effectively told them to f*** off. The Almighty works alone. Guys, I'm starting to think the Hurt Business were only put back together for a few extra spots in the Goldberg-Saudi Arabia match. Surely WWE wouldn't just throw Cedric and Shelton on screen purely to get beaten up to make someone else look good? Bobby Lashley's now beating them up to make him look good. That happened after Brock got the better of Lashley in their promo battle with the zinger joke, knock knock. Who's there? Bobby. Bobby who? Exactly. And then walked off after calling Lashley a Brock Lesnar wannabe. This was a decent promo from both guys, but hopefully MVP and Paul Heyman get a turn on the mic soon as, you know, it's kind of the whole reason they're there. To catch you up on the RK Bro versus Alpha Academy feud so far, Randy Orton is better than Otis, who's better than Riddle, who's better than Chad Gable. But that was not the hierarchy that played out here, as Otis pinned Orton with a power slam for Alpha Academy to become the new tag team champions. I mean, I'm always happy when Gable wins a title, but RK Bro are one of the most over acts in the company, and they lost the belts on a random episode of Raw in what has never felt more than a filler feud. Why not drop the titles to the Street Profits at day one to carry that feud along? What about my RK Bro versus Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins fantasy booking? Is Orton getting released next? RK Bro's tag title run has been one of the most protected things on Raw, yet it felt like the third most important thing on this episode. Of course, the Street Profits couldn't win the belts as they're too busy with the 50-50 booking against the Dirty Dogs. Dolph Ziggler pinned Angelo Dawkins with a zigzag in the following six-man tag with Apollo Crews and Damian Priest. Because 2022 is the one time a year Raw and SmackDown superstars go head-to-head in direct competition, Seth Rollins cut a promo on how he is now fighting Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at Royal Rumble. Big E challenged Seth to an impromptu match which Rollins won clean. It makes sense, as you've got to protect Rollins ahead of his title match, but is Big E the guy you wanted to beat? He's lost his title, a number one contenders match, and a fight he just challenged Seth to in the first 10 days of 2022. It might be the worst start for a WWE champion to a year ever. This episode was, of course, in Philadelphia, the home of brotherly love. So you better believe brotherly love is getting beaten in its hometown. In this case, it was sisterly love, as Rhea Ripley finally told Nikki, almost a superhero, that their time as a team is over. She still believes in her, but it's just not working out. Nikki was great arguing back, but eventually accepted the split, hugging it out, and psych, forearming her partner in the face. Hopefully this is the origin story for Nikki, very much a supervillain. Dana Brooke and Reggie were eating Philly cheesesteaks backstage before being ambushed by the usual jabronis. My favourite bit here was how they threw their cheesesteaks with the packaging on, which the camera then revealed had hit Tamina, but the wrappers were now off, and she was already holding one, meaning she had just stood there off camera for a bit, smearing cheese on herself. Bold prediction, Amos will be in the 24/7 title skits by the end of the year. Reggie and Brooke ran into Amos in the smallest corridor in Philly, where Amos told them off by being tall, continued to be tall all the way to the ring, and then squashed a dude with tallness. Brooke and Reggie watched on from backstage, meaning they're finally building to that huge Amos versus Dana Brooke match. It's nice to see an NXT call-up get a high-profile storyline right away, as Beth Phoenix has been put right into a tag team with Edge in a feud with Miz and Maurice. Edge talked up his wife a lot, playing a special hype video package, which Beth said was so good, she's going to sex him tonight. So Miz interrupted with your local sports team heat and a video package of his own hyping Maurice. Wasn't enough though, as Maurice left Miz high and dry, seemingly scared off by Beth's threats. Austin Theory wanted to impress his sugar daddy Vince McMahon next by beating AJ Styles, which he failed at. Kind of. 5 minutes in, NXT's Grayson Waller, who has a match against AJ on NXT tonight, attacked Styles for the DQ. Theory just got a selfie and walked out, which isn't that consistent with him wanting to win the match, unless he's actually learned his lesson to expect the unexpected pencil. Whatever Vince is trying to say, this message of McMahon's is clear. Now that his vision is in place for NXT, it's getting significantly more main roster integration. Because 2022 is the one time a year Raw and SmackDown and NXT stars go head to head. But he might have now released too many people for the company to basically function, as during all this, Raw cut too early to a shot of the entrance curtain. WWE's production has been weirdly sloppy for them this year. Alexa Bliss is still spooky. Just like I predicted last week, she was in a psychiatrist's office to deal with her demons, but not as pre-Fiend Bliss. She was still Lady Fiend, she still has powers of telekinesis, she's still pissed off about that doll Charlotte Flair tore up, and she's still undermining more serious acts, like when Raw cuts to Becky Lynch in the ring immediately after that video package, who just has to smile like everything is perfectly normal. Lynch was there to be on commentary for the triple threat main event between Doudrop, Bianca Belair and Liv Morgan, with the winner facing her for the title at the Royal Rumble. It was a really well laid out match, playing to each woman's strengths. Doudrop's brute force, Liv's plucky underdog spirit, and Belair's strength. Her main strength is actually strength. After an amazing 450 splash to break up the pin, Bianca seemed set to win, but Lynch prevented a KOD on Liv, leading to Doudrop to emerge victorious. A very good main event and an interference finish that does make sense. Becky screwing Bianca because Belair had beaten Doudrop in their series. What did you think of Raw? Let me know in the comments. 64% of you voted for RK No in our poll on a poll match on the community tab. Raw is continuing to work on 2 great main event title programs with the Brock and Bobby opening and the women's 3-way, and the tag title change was newsworthy at least. This was nowhere near as good as last Monday's though, so this week's Raw is a 3 out of 5.
The real reason Mickie James is in the 2022 Royal Rumble, potential WrestleMania spoilers, the real reason Cody Rhodes missed Battle of the Belts, and more. WWE shocked the wrestling world this past Friday, and for the first time in a while, not by releasing a bunch of its talent while earning record profits.